Hey, I need a little better camera. So this is Tales of Recovery. Homemade videos, homemade cafe. Okay, ready?
Tales of Recovery.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tales of Recovery. This is Gris Alves, your host, and my guest today is my beautiful friend Danna Yunis. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes, okay. Danna Yunis.
Danna Yunis, who is here for our first little homemade studio recording. Actually, I've done a few others, but it was in different places. Anyway, Danna and I met at yoga teacher training, and we were paired together for being our own like personal clients, which was so fucking cool because we were like, yes, I really wanted to be paired with you. And she is a healer, beautiful, mysterious lover of life, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear her story, how she has transformed the experiences in her life to rise above and inspire other women and children, and is now currently just opened up her own yoga studio, right, with movement and meditation and healing and all that beautiful stuff up in North Park.
Yes, ma'am.
So welcome, Danna.
Thank you,
for being
Grace.
here.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for having me.
No, yeah. I think you and I really connected because, well, your father had passed away like a year ago, and my mother had just passed away. So there's like immediate, like, oh, I know that pain. Yeah. I feel you, and it's so raw and it's so recent. And then when we had to do our Dharma projects, I love how you say that word. Please say Dharma. I said that project, and I was like, wait a minute, that's your life? Like, you don't really know. I didn't know all that about you, so please just tell us, like, where you were born, what happened, basically the whole story you said on the Dharma project. Dharma.
I was born in La Mesa, here in San Diego, in '83. And then I grew up between Saudi Arabia, I don't really remember much, Germany, I remember very little, like running away from home with my siblings to have an adventure. I remember living in Jordan very well because I spent some school years there, and I spent most of the time here in the United States. When I turned 15, my parents divorced, my mom moved us to Jordan. When she remarried, to in Islamic law, they exempt the mother from carrying on her duties as a mother once she remarries. So when my mom, that's when you remarry. Cool no, just kidding. So just once a woman.
Totally, just kidding.
No, she's kidding. She would kill someone if they wanted to take her children away from her. But they take the children away from the mother if she wants to remarry. So it's not like you have the option, but you can keep your kids. No, they take the kids from you because the husband is worthy of your full attention. Your new husband. Okay, so the laws are, but we weren't in an Arab region. We were in America, but my mom married someone who was very Arab and very twisted Muslim mentality. And so she married me off at 18. So I married my ex-husband when I was 18 years old. For that reason, like that's why it was so fast.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a say in it, or were you like, okay, mom, I'll do it?
No, I was never an okay, mom, I'll do it. Okay. I was more like, Danna, you're not allowed to talk to boys. Danna sneaks out of the house in the middle of the night. Danna's not allowed to talk to boys. Oh, I used to make phones. I used to take pieces of phones and create a phone. I learned how to wire things, and I did, and make copies of keys, hide them in socks. I was not an easy, I wasn't an easy child. Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. And I didn't like for people to tell me what to do. I just don't like that. I still don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Not in yoga, not in my personal life, not in anything. I don't want to just be like a cookie cutter, perfect, in someone's shape.
Idea of perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So I married my ex-husband, and I got pregnant with my son and had him when I was almost 19.
Mm-hmm. Did you get married here or in Jordan?
We got married in Jordan, and then we moved immediately back to the United States.
Okay.
When we moved back here, we moved first here to San Diego. That's where I had Dawood. And then right after, we moved to Chicago. And we lived there. We got a divorce there. That's where I divorced him. My ex-husband was very physically abusive. Mm. Well, my mother was physically abusive. Her brother, my uncle, was physically abusive. As in, like, fractured my nose twice. And, like, whenever I would run away from the house, like, I'm saying it's funny and I was stubborn. But whenever I would get caught, which I did get caught at least once each with every thing I came up with, I would, my mom would call my uncle, and my uncle would come over and he would beat me until I was blue and black and bruised. Wow. Which was very confusing and weird, because then she would tell me that she loves me and cry because I'm bruised everywhere. So it was like a very sick relationship, I would say. My mother kind of like made me a little, she taught me all the ways to be a better mother. That's what she did. Yeah. Yeah. So she was very abusive. She was physically, mentally, like, I grew up in a very abusive environment. Like, it hurts me still when I remember how much abuse I had to go through as a teenager, and how I'm viewed still as a rebel for wanting to do things my way. Well, for me, it was just like more like a very normal reaction for someone that's being abused to act the way that I did.
What about your dad? Like, was he...
My dad was the opposite of my mom. Okay. But once they divorced, my mom made us not want my dad, or like not talk to him. Mm-hmm. We looked at him as he was the enemy. Mm-hmm. We didn't really welcome him at all in the family. And I kind of fell for my mom's, she's,
Women are powerful seducers.
Very powerful.
Did your dad
I didn't learn that from her, though. Too bad.
Yeah.
I wish I did. That's the one thing I want to learn, how to manipulate like my mother. My dad stayed in the United States, yes. I swear to God. Oh, it's true.
So your dad stayed here, and so then you married, you come back here, and then you divorced in Chicago.
Well, we moved back here. My dad was really worried about me, so he had me move in next to him. Like, he rented us an apartment and furnished my house and wanted us to stay right next to him. But my ex-husband, because he was abusive, didn't want us to be so close to my family. So he just left the job that he was working for my father, left the job. And as soon as my son was born, he moved us to Chicago, where his family are. Okay. So we were like kind of in this suburban area, not in the city, like outside of Chicago. And now I was 19 with a baby and lots of dreams, and married to someone who didn't want me to have any of those dreams. His focus was, I need to provide for the family. Your ideas come later. Mm-hmm. And I'm a very impatient person. I'm still learning to become more patient. So I did not want to wait around for him to want me to get a driver's license or go back to school. I wanted to do things quickly. So I started doing them all in good time. And then after, my ex-husband used to hit me for reasons that were absurd. Like, I was very beautiful and attracted too much attention one dinner, so he would hit me. What? I said my name to a waiter. I said how many are you? Party of 2.5. Ha ha ha. What's your name? Danna. So they called Danna. They announced Danna. And I said, oh, it's us. How dare you give them your name? Now everyone knows your name. It's like, or how dare you order from the waiter? I only speak to the waiter. When I'm around, I'm the only one who speaks. It was just like...
Now, was this ex-husband of yours born in the United States?
He was born in Chicago, lived here for 5 years, and then grew up in Jordan.
Okay, so you had more of that influence than the American-like.
But it wasn't even like an Arab influence, because I have a lot of Arab friends, and I dated many Arab men. It was just that's unique to him. Okay. He has a lot of I don't know. He
guess
has
you
he
could
has
say
his
that.
own he has his own issues.
Yeah, yeah. You could say that for Mexican men too. I could never stereotype all Mexican men are
Yeah,
macho.
yeah.
It's just
No.
more patriarchal. You know, and
The nicest relationships I was ever in were with Arab men. And the
Okay.
most horrible and abusive one was with an Arab man. So it's just like
Yeah,
it
there you
just
go.
depends on the person.
individual.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, not to generalize is definitely key,
Yeah.
especially if you want to travel around the world and meet new people.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're going to generalize every time you meet someone, that's it.
Yeah.
What's the point of getting to know them? Why don't you just decide who they are?
Yeah,
So it's,
wow.
yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, I left my ex-husband with my son, and then years went by. When I got full custody and full possession of Dawood, the judge gave my ex-husband nothing, no rights. Once he gave me all the rights, my ex-husband left the country. He just left the United States and moved to Dubai or Abu Dhabi. Where he started working. And a few years later, you know, things started becoming better. Like he was talking to me all the time, sending money regularly, which was amazing. Yeah. He asked us to go to Jordan so that Wood can meet his family, who he's never been there. He's never met them. So I said, oh, of course, yeah, sure. And he bought us the ticket, two-way, like it wasn't a one-way ticket. It was a round trip for both of us. He wrote me an email saying that I kind of consenting for me to go to Jordan and knowing that I will leave on that date. So, you know, he's being very honest. Everything's very clear. And we go to Jordan on this vacation in December of 2008. And as I want to book our tickets back, they tell me that I can't book it for Dawood. I can't book his ticket. His father has to do it. I need permission from the father because my son has a travel ban on him. So I can't take him out. Oh, so in all of the Arab region, except for I think Tunisia, every single mother has to have written permission from the father to travel with her children, even if she was married. So you cannot even remove your kid from a school, take them to another school, or take their transcripts or put them in a hospital in some countries unless the father is there or signs a paper for you. It's like you are just a uterus and a caregiver. Yeah. The father is the decision maker. Because as they say in Islam, which is not part of Islam, but a lot of people keep repeating it and making it part of religion, like all religions do, a woman is half a brain and half... Yes, a woman, naqisat aql wa deen, it's half a brain and half a faith. Because she gets her period, she can't pray 30 days a month. That means she has less faith because the period is viewed as disgusting and nijis. Like, what is the word in English? Like, if it touches you, you become filthy. Like, you have to wash yourself to be holy again. It's the opposite of the word holy, if you can think of a word. So that's how they consider women. So you grow up thinking that you have less religion and you have less of a mind because a woman's too emotional. So she doesn't use her brain. She just uses her emotion. I can't think for myself. I need a man in my life. I grew up with a mother that always said, I can't live without a man. I can never survive without a man.
What?
Yeah, that's my mom. So for me, and that's why I'm still
My
single.
mom was just like, this guy. If only I could get rid of him.
I highly doubt that. Doubt that you mean that.
No, my mom. I mean, that was just her attitude. If she could have gotten rid of him. I mean, society maybe made you like not get divorced because it would look bad and what will people say, but she would never say, I can't live without him. She was like, let's go. Lone Rangers, riding horses everywhere, you know.
That is actually, that's liberating. You're lucky. That's why you carry yourself with so much feminine, is because your mom allowed you that space to grow up.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, she never did actually leave my dad. So it was like a yes message, but also like, what are you doing message too, right? I mean, you know, they got along, but it wasn't like this amazing romance that she needed him. It was just like, well,
convenient.
Fuck man, the kids and the house. Yeah, she did her thing, you know. Yeah, on her deathbed, she was like, what do you think of that picture of your dad and I? Because somebody had put their picture of their wedding. I'm like, oh, it's great. Don't you like it? Yeah. I mean, this is just how.
Wow.
Yeah, she was funny, but it's also like as a kid, you're like confused. You know, like, well, what are you doing? Like, do you like him? Do you not like him? Are you just pissed off? Are you? But anyway, that's another story. Let's hear your story.
Well, I like your story too.
Yeah.
I want to hear your
interesting.
story.
It's interesting.
I feel like I want to interview every person that interviews me.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is more of like a conversation than an interview. So.
Well, ask questions. I
Yeah.
love asking questions.
So okay, so let's get back to the fun of your life.
Oh, so much fun. Honestly,
You can't leave with your son, right?
I couldn't leave. So my option was my ex-husband, when I contacted him, said, well, you can leave. You can leave. You just can't take my son.
So he tricked you into this.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I still am a little extra gullible when it comes to, like, if you're nice to me for a while and I really want to trust you because I really need to trust you because we made a baby together, or because we're friends, or because we spent 2 months together, or ate together, or whatever. Like, I want to trust people. I had this real bad need to, like, trust. So I fell into many holes because of this.
It's like a humane thing, right? Like, we crave to trust.
Yes. But also, I feel like sometimes maybe the world slaps you across the face when it comes to this, so you can learn to be more aware and trust, but with time.
Right.
Like, it's better if someone
Trust,
gains
but
your
verify.
trust. Yeah.
Like, you could have called before and said, how am I going to get my kid out of here?
Well, the thing is, I had a paper, but because he's a man and he can play with the law like he wanted, so they took his side and said, well, this paper isn't notarized, it's just an email. So, but if I was the man and I had an email, I could have played with it. Like, it would be the other way around.
And how old was your son?
He was in first grade, so he was almost 7 years old.
Oh.
So we stayed in Jordan. I stayed in Jordan. I wasn't gonna leave my son, and I spent a very difficult 6 months at first, and then I
Were you living with him, with son's father?
No,
on your own.
No.
What did the
He
kids
tried
say?
to get back together with me, but
No.
he tried to get back together with me until I told him that I had had sex with other men after our divorce. And he was so shocked. This is so ridiculous. I was like, what did you think I was doing? Playing golf? Like,
praying half of the month?
Yeah. He's like, how could the mother of my child be with other men?
Oh, please. Oh.
I'm so filthy and nasty. But see, that wasn't just his mentality. That was the mentality of the entire culture. The whole culture literally looks at you like a prostitute, like a whore, because you're divorced and you live by yourself. Why would a good woman live by herself? Right. There has to be, there's something wrong with you. You know, why aren't you remarried already? Or why aren't you living with your parents? Clearly you want to do things that people aren't okay with. That's why you're living alone.
Yeah. I want to enjoy my humanity and my pleasurable body before I die.
Oh, that's not
what
okay.
What the fuck?
That's not, you have to get married first.
Yeah, that's kind of a little like Mexicans. Like, if you know, we're going to find a good husband, you better be a virgin, or tell them you are.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're used goods. It's like, well, meanwhile, they're probably fucking around with all these people, and it's like, that's kind of a big commitment to a lifetime without, like, no.
No, that makes no sense. That makes no sense to me.
There's just so much repression that it's hurtful. It's pathological. But that's,
That's a whole other
whole
layer.
Other podcast.
That's a whole other story.
Good woman and
to this,
sensuality.
Good.
So, okay, so you're stuck there now. Well, now you're staying because of your son. For how many years did you stay there for?
I stayed in Jordan until 2012.
Did you just start a job? Or is it
the first 6 months I didn't need to. I lost everything I had here in the United States. My friends came and went to my house, packed my things, took my car for me. My car got towed and my friend never got it out. We couldn't find the papers. My things were lost in a flood in someone's garage. It was just like all the things were gone. All our things. The memories, the pictures of my son, my photos, the things that actually matter were also gone. That was the hardest thing in the world. like the hardest.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I lived in Jordan. I worked as first I got a job as English department supervisor in a school, Oxford schools, which was very random. I was like a how old was I then? 25-year-old supervisor. Just because I was very, like, I acted like I knew what I was doing. I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't even have a degree. I was still in school when we got stuck in Jordan, but I lied and said that I did have it. I just never packed it because we were stuck in Jordan. Everyone knew that I was stuck there. So I didn't have access to it, but it existed somewhere out there.
Yeah.
And so I did my job and I did it well. And then I transferred to my son's school and taught as an English teacher for second grade.
Mm-hmm.
The year after that, and that was fine. And then I got fired from that job because I asked the daughter of a minister to go to the principal's office, which I was not allowed to do because she's the daughter of a minister. And so then I told my ex-husband. So my ex-husband used that situation of me not making money, not having a job, a main job, because I had 2 jobs for us to survive, but I didn't have my main one anymore, and he stopped sending me money, and he sent me like a letter stating that my son is almost 9 and he has the legal right to take him from me. So when my son turned 9, his father had legal rights to take full custody because he's a boy. Also, his dad had many pictures of me on Facebook, like with alcohol and stuff, and they consider that, over there, you are definitely not a good mother, and the child should not be with you. So he threatened to have me not see my son again and things like that. And my mom was on his side.
Could you have called like the United States embassy?
I went to the embassy.
He's a fucking citizen.
No,
Too bad.
he's Jordanian first.
Oh really? Even though he was born here?
It doesn't matter. He has a Jordanian passport and he's in Jordan, so Jordanian law applies before United States law. I even had full custody and full possession. I had all the papers.
Okay.
They said I couldn't do anything. The only advice one of them gave me, he came from behind the window because I was bawling, crying in the embassy. He came behind the window and said, if you can kidnap him through Syria, I suggest you do that very quickly.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had to like kidnap my child in order to leave. And this was a guy that worked in the embassy. I don't remember his name, but I remember exactly how he looked. And that was the advice he could give me. But I look at my son, and I always kind of protected I always protected Dawood from his dad being abusive and what was happening around me. I never told him that we were stuck in Jordan. I acted like we wanted to be there. I never told him I had to work 2 jobs. I made it seem like I wanted to work 2 jobs. Like I always, in front of him, acted like everything was great. Like we're fine. I'm strong, like everything's okay. Because I was worried about how he would feel. And he would go to his dad on weekends and stay with me on the weekdays. And one day my mom even said, I think it's time for you to go find a new husband, forget about your son, and make a new one. And just focus on your new family. Kind of like
practical.
what she did. Kind of what she did. She just wanted me to do what she'd done. Just forget about this one. You can have another one. You could just make a new one. Aww. Why are you attached to this one? Ugh, leave him. He's causing too much headache. Just go live your life. So she was supportive of my ex-husband taking my son from me, because she believed that would give me the room to live my life as a woman. She believes wholeheartedly that I cannot live a full life as a single mom. So for her, in her eyes, like she really believed.
She was trying to help you.
Yes, that was the best thing for me. And so them together and everyone else, like no one was supportive of me having Dawood with me. And then, I could not give my son to my ex-husband, like, for me to do it was never gonna happen. Yeah. So I left my son with my mom with his things, and I moved to Lebanon, which was about 6-hour drive by cab, just so I can see him on weekends.
So you didn't kidnap him to Syria?
No, because I imagine that would traumatize my son.
Yeah.
And it would it would mean he can never be in touch with his father. And I didn't want to do that. My mom did that to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's not, I don't know. When it came to only when it comes to him, somehow my brain doesn't think like it does when I'm alone. I always think of like what's best for his emotional state. What is best for him in the long run. How can I avoid traumatizing my child so he doesn't carry the weight of my mistakes for his whole life? So my mind wasn't like about me winning, me getting what I want. It's more like, how can at the time, he was saying things like, Mama, I've lived with you my entire life. Maybe it's time for me to go live with Baba. So he was hearing things from his grandma and his dad, and he was repeating them to me, and I would be like, no. My response was like, no, you're not leaving me. What? Like, I'm here for you. Like, what am I going to, like, what is this? So I moved to Lebanon, which is a much more liberal Arab country where you could wear what you want. Yay. You can drink in the streets. You can smoke some hash, on the low. You could dance. You could express yourself as a female without, extreme judgment. Especially in Beirut, where I lived in the capital, there was parties and fun. And then I would go see my son on weekends. And I would take a taxi there, so it was cheap for me to go down and meet him. So I lived there for a couple of months, and while I was there, a friend connected me with a journalist from Washington Post, and I worked with her as a correspondent. I always wanted to work as a journalist. I never knew what kind or do what with it. I just knew I knew I was a writer when I was 8. And with this lady, we talked about Syria for a little bit, and then I stopped working with her because she stopped coming to Lebanon. And then I started wanting, I worked as a bartender in Lebanon and took a few classes in school. I would sneak into classes to learn, like, writing. Like, I wanted to still continue my education. I could never do it. So I would sneak into classes and write and stuff like that. And then I decided I'm going to work as a copywriter. I heard about this thing called copywriting. Someone came into the bar where I was working, read the poetry I was writing. He's like, dang, you would be a great copywriter. And I said, what's a copywriter? And he said, oh, it's like advertising. You can write, little come up with creative ideas to sell products. I was like, that's easy. That's how my brain works. Yeah. And so I applied to Leo Burnett. They gave me a freelance job. I flew to Qatar because they pay way more money, and got hired with Ogilvy, Mehmet Ogilvy in Qatar, which is like one of the largest agencies.
Advertising.
Yes, ad agencies in the world. And so I was very proud of myself. I was making good money, and after I started saving a little more money, this is like along the years, I'm summarizing it. Yeah. I finally had the money to start paying a lawyer again to get my son out. And during that time, also, Dawood went from, let me live with my dad, to, Mama, save me, please. Get me out of here. My stepmom is mean. And, like, I would call him so the entire time I was not physically with my son, not one day went by without me calling him. Yeah. Except for the 10 days when I went to India for silent meditation. Besides that, every single day I would find a payphone, a cell phone, anything to call him so he knows that I love him and he's on my mind. So he knows that he's loved. Because there's nothing more important for you to do for your baby except show them that you love. Like, you don't really have to do it. Yeah, that's it. You just have to, your job is to love them. So I tried my best to show Dawood that I love him a lot.
I'm going to cry. It's true. Yeah.
It is.
That's so beautiful. And not to be able to be with them, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was like death.
To hold it together,
I felt like it was someone like pulling my limbs off my body and then telling me, go run. I'm just like paralyzed. Yeah. You don't feel like you can. And I cried so much that I thought that I would look very old when I'm 40, I thought I would look like I'm 100. I cried so much. My eyes were exhausted from cry. I don't think any other human on this planet cried as much as I have. It was a lot of there were a lot of tears, and everyone knew about my son, and my goal in life was to get my son back. So everyone I met in the 5 years we were apart knew that my goal was to get my son back. Finally, I made enough money, and he nagged his dad. His father's family also wanted him to live with me.
Right.
Everyone was against Dawood living with his dad because they saw how miserable he was and how good of a mother I was. So at that point, no one was judging me. Everyone was saying, just give the boy to his mother. He needs his mother. He's better off with her. And so finally, he agreed to give me my son back when he was 13. He had actually turned 14 when I picked him up. I flew to Jordan to meet him in the airport, to pick him up, meet him at the airport, make sure he's going with me. That's how scared I was that he wouldn't send him. And flew back to Qatar together, just to make sure that he was coming. And when we got there, I sat down like behind the desk in the living room, and I'm just staring at him unpacking and talking like wow. Everything is normal, you know, to him. It's like, yeah, you know, yeah, so blah, 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 you know, and then, you know, my friend did this, and I went, and I'm looking at him like, I can't believe that he's here. What do I do now? Like, that was my goal. My goal in life for years was to get my son back with me. So when you actually achieve your goal, what do? Like, right. I'm just looking at him thinking, wow. So it took me a minute to understand this. And then the next day at 5 a.m, I woke up. It always happens for some reason at sunrise. I don't understand this in the universe, but there's something with sunrises.
Yeah. Get up and watch the sunrise.
Yeah. There's some magic that always happens with the rising of the sun. But I woke up and immediately, like, I looked at him because we stayed in the same room because I couldn't believe that my son was there. So for me, I was just like staring at him while he's sleeping, looking at his feet, you know, like I can't believe my baby's here, wanting to make him 10 meals a day, just like I wanted to do nothing but just like be a mom. Yeah. And the whole time during all those years, all I was saying to everyone, I just want to be a mother. Like, just give me the tools necessary for me to be a mom. Like, stop making it so difficult for me to just want to fulfill this little, not little, but this thing within myself. And the laws and the people were so against that. And it just makes no sense to me. It feels like evil. It feels evil. And so I got up, I looked at Dawood, I played with his hair, I kissed him, I got up, I went to the living room, opened my laptop, and wrote a post about how I'm inviting all single mothers who have been through custody issues in the Arab region to contact me, because I'm starting a campaign for mothers' rights in the Arab region. I took my knowledge from advertising, and I wanted to use it for something that means everything to me, and that was mothers' rights. Someone needed to talk about it. Now my goal was to make sure that other mothers don't go through this. Yeah. So, because I know how it feels. So I posted it, people started getting in touch with me, and then one day someone gives me a call or sends me a text, and she's like, can you come in and meet me? Like, I'd love to talk to you. And I was like, ugh, really? You want me to come to you so I can, okay. And she's like, can you come to my office? I don't have time outside of work. I was like, yes, ma'am. What else would you like me to do? Yeah. And she's like, yeah, I would just love to meet you and hear more about your campaign and blah, blah, blah. And I said, sure. So then her secretary calls me and says, I need a copy of your passport so I can give you a permit to come in to the work. And I was like,
who is this lady?
Who is this? And he's like, her name is Dima Al-Khatib. I don't know who that is. Apparently it was the managing director of AJ Plus and Al Jazeera. So one of the social media side of Al Jazeera, Al Jazeera, how you say it?
Yeah, I love it.
She was the head of the social media side, and I had no idea it was her the whole time. I'm just like rolling my eyes at this woman. And I didn't know that AJ Plus was part of Qatar because I followed them for years, and I even looked up where their office was, and I saw that it was in San Francisco.
For those of us that don't know, what is AJ Plus?
Al Jazeera is the second largest news agency in the world.
Okay.
And AJ Plus is a social media site, so it targets the youth, and all their segments are up to 5 minutes the longest, but mainly about 1 minute long, 2 minutes. And they just cover news in a very direct, honest manner.
Okay.
So it's not tainted by what the West wants to hear. It's not tainted by what the Middle East want to hear. It is like so powerful that Trump, one of his main things was to shut it down.
Okay.
And he obviously did. It's not going to work because
Right.
they fund, Qatar as a country funds Al Jazeera. So
Okay.
it's a country owned agency.
Okay.
And they're the richest country per capita in the world. So
Wow.
they don't need
Funding from the U.S.
yeah, exactly, which makes them very liberated from needing to obey anyone.
Empowered.
Yes. So I went
So
in.
this is who you went to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I went in, I met with her. I know, it was so cool. And she was so nice. She made me tea and I said I'd like honey because I don't like sugar. So she got me this honey that she'd gotten from Tunisia. And she made me my cup, and like she was like so sweet and gorgeous woman in heels, big earrings, big rings. She was just like so female, and crazy hair, doesn't color her roots, they're all out. I was like, who is this? How is this? First, like, you will never meet women in general aren't like that, but an Arab woman to be that and to be a leader, the only female managing director in all of Al Jazeera. Her. She speaks like 7 languages and plays I don't know how many instruments, and she's just amazing. So she did AJ plus Spain or Spanish, AJ plus French, AJ plus Arabic, and AJ plus English on her own. She managed all of those because of the languages that she's able to speak. Hired everyone under her and did the whole thing. Started it from nothing and made it into one of the biggest explosions of our time. Like, everyone watches AJ Plus here, in the Arab region, in Europe, everywhere. So she hired me on the spot. She asked me if I would become a news producer in her agency. And I was like, what? Like, what? Really?
Yes.
Really? She's like, yeah, I want, and I'll never forget her words, because these are very important, especially when people go through a lot in life. They tend to forget who they miss looking at them, reflecting on who they are. So it's very important to reflect and remind yourself who you are, like, because you're fighting, struggling. You don't have time to like sit and reflect. I did it right before I got the wood back. I did Vipassana and did Iboga, went on a like retreat and did medicine plants, and wanted to heal myself from the trauma before I bring back my son. So I did that, but I still didn't have enough time to sit and reflect. And she looked at me and she said, Danna, you're exactly the kind of person I want on my team. You know how to turn pain into power. And there's nothing more powerful in this world. And I looked at her and I was like, oh, thank you. Yes, I do. I didn't notice. And I was just like, I was like, who is this woman?
What's her name again?
Dima Al-Khatib. She is magic. We're still very close friends. So her and I have to talk at least once a week. She is, she is one of my dearest women from my entire life. She's a rare one.
How long did you work there for?
About 2 years. Then I came.
Did you keep on during your work there? Also had the like the advocacy stuff for the women that have been taking their kids away, and
so that was all I did.
Oh, okay.
So I was hired there to turn my campaign idea, which was called The Deepest Scar, and turn it into a program where I interview women. You don't see my face, but I interview women, and I chop it up, and I put animation where you're talking about the past, and then you see their face when we're talking about the present. and we made it in Arabic because she felt like first we need to have the Arabs hear what's going on,
Yes.
and then to grow outside of the Arab region.
Yes.
I can't
So
say it was super cool. It was really, the stories that I heard were insane. I thought the stories that are going on around the world are I don't even know if mind blowing is the right expression. They're painful.
sad.
There's a lot of pain. Like there are countries where the father put his daughter in jail for not wanting to leave the custody of her own children because he can't afford to have her and her kids.
Whoa.
One, your custody as a woman goes from your father to your husband when you get married. When you divorce, it goes back to your father. You're never an independent individual. So he's responsible for your care. There's always a man that has to be responsible for your brother, your father, your uncle. It trickles to like whoever.
Yeah.
If you have no one, you have to get married, because then how are you supposed to survive? That's the mentality over there. So
That's
you hear
the disempowerment plan.
you hear a lot of sad stories from women that
Having to do whatever it takes to survive.
having to fight fights that you don't like, going to jail for not giving up the custody of their child. Some of them just like traumatizing stories, honestly.
So when you were doing this show, are you like...
Some were hiding in jail so their families don't take their kids from them, and their kids are in jail together. Because that's the only place the government said they can protect them. So they put them in jail to protect them from her own family or her kid's family.
So the government can intervene?
That's all they do is like, that's it. Let's put you in jail so we can protect you. Because that's the only place.
Because that's the only place they can't get in.
That's it. So the governments do, but not to an extent where they're helping you. It's just like they're putting a Band-Aid over a very, very infected wound.
Right.
They're just making it worse in a way. It is a Band-Aid. There could be some decent intention behind it, but I really don't think so.
Yeah.
The governments are not in support of the women. The richer the country, the better they are to the women, for some reason. I don't understand that, but in Qatar and the UAE, they're better. Saudi Arabia, no. That is a country where, like, for me, it's death to my freedom as a woman. Literally death. And I know that this is not appealing. Like, a lot of people try to like tiptoe around saying those things because it's a rich country and it can come and destroy me right now in my career. But oh no, like Saudi Arabia, I think they even take women who speak against them and throw them in jail. Like, you could just disappear forever. Like, and your family will never hear from you again. If you say a word against the government or against like the law, not the government, the laws. So if you complain as a woman against the laws that are in place,
That's it.
you could bye.
Wow.
It's
bad.
It's really bad.
Do you see any evolution of that changing, or is it just same, worse?
No, women will change things when they're done with the current situation.
Yeah.
But there's no like West saves the Middle East. This mentality of let's go save. You can't save someone.
They have to do it on their own.
And a lot of the women like how it is. A lot of the women, my ex-husband's mother saw her son hit me while I was pregnant. And I was on the floor and he was kicking me in my back. And I was curled up in a fetal position to protect my baby. She saw me and she took the door and closed it so that the neighbors don't hear us fighting.
They see it as normal.
Not only that, she said, when I told her I wanted to leave her son, she said, who do you think you are? You know how many women had to go through worse situations than this? Why do you think you're better than all of them? And that you get to leave. So I feel like they have so much pain inside themselves that they want to pass it to you. Yeah. Like my mother wanted to pass her guilt and shame to me by making me make the same mistake. Miserable. Go do the same thing, leave your children, And then you'll, I'm sure my mom's inside of her, she's not very happy or proud of herself, but she's never going to admit that.
Yeah.
So it's like that's how they pass it on generation to generation. So tying it all that pain, the good thing, the cherry on top of this whole thing is that when you go through a lot of pain, you have two options. You can either get sick when you're older and like crumble and slowly sink into the bottom of, I don't know, a very, very dark space, or you can liberate yourself by learning and growing and finding healing. I, being the rebel, stubborn one, didn't want to look 100 when I was 40.
From all that crying too.
Yeah. I didn't want to be just sad for the rest of my life. I wanted joy. I'd been abused for so long that I finally wanted to feel happy. Yeah. I wanted to be happy with my son, live healthy. I didn't want to, like my father got sick with diabetes when my mom left him, and I saw him slowly die. Like, because he held all the emotions inside. I saw what it does to a person. Yeah. To keep your emotions inside you like that literally kills you. Yeah. It manifests into cancers, into diabetes, into so many things. So I had the option of get sick and die, looking very old and not beautiful, or heal myself and continue just journey of my healing and feel light and just like I keep going. So I chose lightness. So I can, in this phase, during those years, there was a lot of yoga. It started in 2013 when I got my knee injury, traveling to India, just like meditation. Going to Vipassana, the 10-day silent meditation, trying some plant medicine.
Where did you try Iboga? In India?
No, I went to England for that.
England. Okay.
It was 2 hours outside of London where this group was. They were taking the plant around the world. But I know of a place in Costa Rica.
That's an intense medicine.
It's, to me, it was one of the best things that I ever tried in my life.
How is it different from ayahuasca?
Less puking.
That's
for
but
sure.
Like the visions, like the sensation.
Oh, so clear. The visions are so clear. But it's not like vision, like ayahuasca shows you patterns. And the patterns morph into different things.
Right.
And like I saw, for example, my guards or guides sitting around a table.
In ayahuasca?
Yes.
Okay.
And the person taking me, or the being that was taking me, was showing me that we are always here for you. You are never alone. Kept repeating, you are never alone. You are never alone. Taking me through this river and repeating, you are never alone. Showing me my guides, you are never alone. It was just like this whole journey of I am never alone. I am not alone. Like everything I'm going through, there's a purpose, there is a tribe around me, to support me in this process. That was huge. I mean, just for anyone to know that is a really beautiful thing. And the Iboga, on the other hand, you see just like temples, flying, carpets, lightning, traveling to countries you've never seen before, looking in the mirror, seeing your face changing, your eye colors changing, like all these, like depending on who you are, you're gonna have a completely other experience. But it is, for me, ayahuasca is to clean, and Iboga is to
like open up.
It's like to really reach up to your like highest of high selves.
How long did the Iboga?
It was 2 nights in a row that we did it. And every 2 hours they give you a little more, so you continuously go through this process.
What does the body feel? Was the body sensation like?
I felt like I was high on all the drugs in the world. Okay. I felt so high. I was like, like the first time I got up, because every 2 hours they ask you like what you're seeing, so they explain to you what your visions are. I got up after the first time and I looked at them and I was like, this is a drug. This is stronger than all the drugs I've ever taken. What is this? And I started laughing. And they're like, oh my God, god. Okay. Did you see anything?
It's Danna.
Actually, there were people sitting down like, I don't feel anything.
Whoa.
What is she tripping on? And so one lady was in tears. One lady was in depression where she couldn't move her body anymore. That was the most interesting one. So she came in like just done with life. She was like a corpse. And she had to have someone to help her at all times. After Iboga, she was standing and walking and doing things. There's a whole thing to the process. It's not just taking medicine and dreaming.
My
and
husband
hearing.
did that for 2 weeks.
You write it and you write things. Oh.
I mean, but it's a 360-degree change in consciousness, attitude, thoughts, spirit, life. I'm like, who?
Are you?
Why didn't we do this like 5-10 years ago?
Right?
And the thing is that it's so helpful for depression, for addiction, for so many things.
Yep.
And it's illegal here. Come on now. Come on now. But anyway, all right. So we should do another whole episode on psychedelics. But,
oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But so I want to hear more about kind of where we left off. Like you're working in this amazing place agency, and then because how do you end up back in the United States or?
Well, while working with the Asian, like I got the job with Al Jazeera, but the government would not let me sponsor my son. Because as a single mom, I didn't have a degree, and that for some reason was a reason for them not to allow me to keep my kid in Qatar. So he was only a visitor, which meant he can't go to school. So while I am processing, like creating a show that talks about the lack of mothers' rights, I'm dealing with the lack of mothers' rights, even in a different country. Now, they can use any excuses that they want. You know, you didn't have your papers. It's not our fault. Why do I need a degree to be a mother and have my child with me in Qatar? But really, they don't want single moms there because it brings trouble, a headache. So they want to find any way to make it hard for you to survive in the country. Unless you're already in a very high position and a very high job. And I was just starting in this field, so I was in no way, in anything. That took me a year and 4 months to get. So for a year and 4 months, I could not sponsor my son.
So you had to keep going back, or he?
Every 3 months he has to leave and come back in.
Oh wow.
And the school wouldn't let him go to school until I begged them, and we found a back away, And then he could attend school. But the year following, they're like, okay, we need his ID. And finally, 4 months into his school year, I was able to get them an ID.
Wow.
That's crazy. To me, that's so. Imagine going back to the government's whatever office center thing every single week for a year. Yeah. That was my life.
Were there other women there with you doing the same thing?
No, there aren't a lot of single moms. I met single moms in Qatar. I probably met 2 in the entire time I was there.
What about the ones you were interviewing?
They weren't in Qatar.
Okay.
They weren't in. They were mainly in the poorer countries.
Okay. And you were traveling there to interview them and stuff? Or?
Yes, I had to go to them. So in Lebanon, I had to go to Lebanon. Jordan, I had to go to Jordan.
Were they getting in trouble for being on these news things, or were they like, did you have to hide their faces?
No hiding of any faces. That was not allowed. So I had to find people that were willing to sit in front of camera, which meant there were not always the best intentions, which meant it was harder to find the right people to interview. It wasn't an easy task to like find the women, inspire them to speak up. A lot of them would say yes, you'd interview them for about a month, and then last minute they change their mind because they're scared, or oh my God, my lawyer says I might get custody of my child. I don't want to talk bad anymore because I'm afraid that it will ruin things for me, or people will find out. Like everybody's scared of, they just don't want to lose their babies, mainly. The ones that didn't care and would talk, the ones that haven't seen their kids for years, who have nothing to lose. Right. But the ones who had hope were always scared. Yeah. Because your fear is not about you. Your fear is not to see your baby again. How sad is that?
Yeah, no, that's intense.
There was a woman who was thrown in jail so that the father can take the baby away from her. When I interviewed her, I felt like I was there with her. You could feel like, and she wouldn't cry. She was just like playing. Like, And there's another
Protection.
lady. Oh, so like for example, it's so messy over there to like try to fix the laws, and they made it that way deliberately to continue to keep that region very weak. So in Lebanon, there are 18 different sects of religions. There are 16 courthouses. Whatever the religion of your husband is, Catholic, Baptist, you go to the courthouse of his religion. So if you're Muslim Sunni, you have to go to the Muslim Sunni one. And each one is a completely different set of laws. And each one is worse to women than the other. Funny enough, the Catholic, when the kid is 2, they take the child away from the mother. Not 9, 2. And this is like, everyone thinks, oh, it's the Muslims are crazy. Well, no, actually.
The Catholics are worse.
Everyone is crazy there. Like, it's just like, they're like, why would you want to take the child away from the... I feel like one of the things that I thought of today is how I love the story of Jesus. And I really, really love how he is immense love. Like just a person who carried himself. He is the manifestation of love in a human was Jesus Christ, in my opinion, in my reflection on things.
Yeah.
His mother and her love for him was necessary for him to be that kind of love. But we don't focus on that love of the mother with the child. Like the mother that's a teenager, that's pregnant, that's freaking out, but still has him and still faces the world with him. Still, like that's why we see Mary as such a huge figure in our religions, cultures, all of it. Because that's how important the relationship between mother and child is... You should not mess with that relationship. It's like a holy relationship. You don't want to cause any distance between them. I feel like the cultures that separate the mom and the child will be like cursed. It's not something that people should just stand by and allow to happen. The mother and the child should have everything they need to be together. I know that a lot of people will say, well, some moms, that's not the point.
No.
The point is, in general, allow the child and the mom to be together. For the some mom situation, I'm sure there will be different solutions. For sure. But this is a bond that should not be broken for the child and the mother. For me, I felt like someone was pulling out my lungs or my intestines from my body. Physically, it's the most painful thing in the world to not have your baby with you.
When did you get him back and brought him to the United States?
2018. So 2 years later. I had done a few episodes. I got in trouble after one of the episodes. It made me a little scared. It was not a nice experience at all. Even I was scared, and I'm not easily scared of this stuff, but it's
like a mafia.
You'll be scared at some, I don't understand. All this to suppress women, we must have some power that is...
Yeah.
They actually make me believe that women...
and thousands of year old story of women, let's take it away.
Yeah, it's so much effort from their end to suppress the woman.
Well, that's how scared they are.
That's scary. The fear they fear is scary.
Yeah.
And it also should make women understand that that's how much power you have as a female. You have it's incredible the what you can be and how you can be and the love that you hold within yourself and the compassion and
the
empathy.
Responsibility to heal all this generational trauma so that you're not passing it on like your mother-in-law or other mothers, but actually taking that in, noticing where this came from, and from there use that power for good, for healing, for the world, for other younger women that are starting out.
Yes.
And
talking to them and guiding them and yes, absolutely. But that's why people like you and I are where we are in life. Yeah. Because you know that it's once you heal yourself, I feel like one of your main goals becomes to help heal others. And so 2 years ago, I came to visit my dad in 2018 because him and I were always close. And he couldn't travel that summer. He said he was too tired, which was worrying to me because he'd never said that before. So I came here and I visited him, and I knew he wasn't doing well because his clothes weren't clean and they were in the closet. And my dad was like, always has to wear a dress-up shirt with his pen and his rings and his Rolex, and he's just like, even with half an amputated foot, he still had to look sharp. Combing his hair, has a little brush, so he can slick it back so he looks like all perfect. Smells like $1 million. He's
your father.
He's the way he was like, everyone talks about how he carried himself, and to suddenly find him
like that
was I knew that I needed to stay with him. So I decided I would stay with him. I never went back to Qatar. I had my friends ship our things because anyways, I was going to move from my neighborhood to a nicer space. So I had packed all the things, and I said, I'm going to travel and see how I feel about everything, take a break from all this.
Your son came with you?
No, I was by myself. There was no plan for us to move.
Okay.
I just came to see my dad and see where I flow. And when I came to see him, I decided we were going to stay. So I bought, instead, my son was visiting Jordan, his dad and his family there. And I bought him a ticket to come to the United States instead of return back to Qatar. By the way, my son I never revealed any of this to my son until recently. So my son didn't know any of all the story that I shared with you. He still doesn't know. I still never told him his dad used to be abusive. He saw his father was abusive to his new wife,
right.
But I have never.
I'm sure he honors that.
He knows.
Maybe deep down.
He knows, and he knows. He's just. I don't feel that it's. I don't know. I just haven't. I don't feel like I feel like I always wanted to protect my son from his father's behavior. So sharing this to my son doesn't feel like I'm protecting him anymore from it. Maybe when he's older, because he's still 18. Yeah. Maybe a little later. I feel he knows anyway, so don't listen to the podcast. He's still a baby. For me. To me, in my eyes, he's still a baby. But
you moved here.
We moved here, and
my father was sick.
Yeah, and he got worse and worse. And my neighbors said that he always talked about me, and I was his favorite. Not my older brother. I was the favorite. And my older brother wants to believe he was the favorite, but whatever, I was the favorite. And he always talked about me, and as soon as I came back, they said it's like he was waiting for me to come here so he can leave. And so 3 months later, slowly, he passed away. And I think that was the biggest death of all deaths for me. To lose my father was to lose half my family.
Oops. Sorry, podcast people.
Excuse that
there's dogs. There's
we're human,
phones. This is a homemade podcast.
You just have to there's tea also if you guys would like some tea. We have tea. I'm in yoga pants really and a yoga outfit underneath this orange shirt, so it's fine. So I took care of my dad, and then I was holding him when he passed away. I was able to do that, which I think is the biggest blessing in the world.
It's a sacred moment.
It's one of the things when I was in that bad situation, when I got in trouble for when I was locked up in a small space for a while. And when I was in that space, I prayed for two things. Please let me go back to my son to make sure he's old enough to take care of himself. And please don't let my dad die without me being with him. So those were my prayers. And I'm with my son. And I was able to be with my dad. So it was really like a very sad. Now I reflect back at it and I see the blessing in the fact that I was holding him, that I was able to comb his hair, that I was able to help him go, you know, use the restroom, bathe him, take him out in the wheelchair, like spend those last 3 months with him was a very big blessing.
It's sacred.
Yeah.
It's so sacred.
Yes.
Intense.
Very.
You know.
And very draining.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. And when he passed away, I didn't want to do anything. I lost all my creativity. I did not want to create or feel like creating. I didn't want to move back to Qatar because my son was already here in school. And my dad, before he died, said, you have to stay here. I'm leaving and you're going to stay. And I would get mad at him. What do you mean you're going to leave? You're too sick to travel. And he'd say, Baba, listen to me. I'm about to leave and you have to stay here. Stay in San Diego. And I would get so angry with him. And he kept saying, you should teach yoga. I was like, there are more yoga teachers than Starbucks in San Diego. We do not need another yoga teacher. Like, no one's going to come to my yoga. No, you need to teach. You are different. Don't look at it like that. And so my dad apparently knew way more than any. I thought my dad had dementia. It was part of his dementia conversation. Apparently, he really knew what he was talking about. So I got my second, that was my second teacher training that I got. The first one was Ashtanga in Jordan, but it wasn't 200 hours, it was 100 hours. And then I took my 200-hour teacher training at Core Power. 3 weeks after he passed away, I was there for my first class. Wow. Because I knew that I was in so much pain that the only way that I could survive is to move my body. And the only way I could survive is to listen to intention and stay mindful, to practice it continuously. Because you have to take so many classes as a teacher. I had to move in and out and all the time.
You think you're going to get a teacher credential, but really you're going into the
to
most
heal.
Intense healing and transformational work, you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And
the
it's really,
byproduct is a certification. But
yes, absolutely. And so every teacher goes to their teacher training. I can't say every because I don't know every single one. For the most part, we find yoga, not because it's cool, because you're not getting paid enough for it to be cool.
Right.
It is because you found it for you. It healed you in a certain way. So you find your way of teaching, and that's your right to deliver that way to your students. Your students will hear your voice will speak from a much, you'll be a vessel for something much bigger if you are teaching from your heart, from why you went to yoga in the first place. Now, what a lot of studios do is it wants you to sound all the same so that wherever anyone goes to this studio, they will get the same exact experience. So they want you to use the same cues and the same, and I'm not dissing them. That's a great idea to grow a franchise of yoga. I'm not very much happy with the idea of franchising yoga, but that's also good for them. But I did, while we were in our 300 teacher training, and the only reason I went for my 300 hour is because I felt I wanted to give more to my students and I wanted to gain more knowledge. Because I was just like,
and you wanted to meet me.
Yes! Yes!
Subconsciously. Yeah.
Well, I also wanted Amore to be my teacher.
Yeah, of course.
So when COVID happened and we were locked up, I was like, okay, so how can I make the best out of this? Learning. Right. I need to learn more. Now that I'm doing nothing but learning, I'll take my 300 hours on top of being a full-time student. Right. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm just going back to school, which I've always wanted to do. So... yes, I knew that I wanted Amore. I told her I want you to be my guru. She's like, well, I'm giving a 300 hour if you're interested. I was like, sure, why not? And that was not my intention, was never the certificate. It was just to gain more knowledge. And then I got to meet you, yes, which is one of the most wonderful things. Yeah. This lady is someone everybody needs to meet. Once COVID ends or whenever you get a chance, you should come meet her in person.
Come be on the podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Or be on the podcast.
This is wonderful.
So
and now you are
we had
teaching.
our Dharma project and it's teacher training. Dharma is like your life's purpose. So it doesn't have to be your exact life's purpose, but you try to think like what speaks to you, and you bring it in a yoga project to the rest of your like the rest of the students, the rest of your team. Mine stems from always being a rebel, like always finding my pain and turning it into power. I feel like I was just saying today in my yoga class, if I've mastered anything in life, it's how to turn pain into power continuously. And so if I wanted to leave my son with anything in this life, is to have him learn how to turn pain into power, because if you can do that, you'll always be okay. And you can turn it into power through healing. And so one of the things that my Dharma project was to just teach yoga. I've never worked for a big name. I worked at a gym. They don't know much about yoga, so they let me do my thing, which was great because I got to say the things that I wanted to say. I got to talk about healing and use Sanskrit words or ideologies, or mention God and Jesus, and like no one, I'm free. While in other places, you can only use this many Sanskrit words. You can only talk for this much about your intention. This is where you put your intention. This is where you cue.
They're more structured.
It's a very structured. So it kind of, I feel the structure. It's like not to diss the structure, but it's like if I tell you let's write in a journal and I give you a structure of how to write an essay, and I'm like this is how it has to be, versus saying we're gonna write an essay right now. It's free writing. Write anything you're feeling. Just go, flow with it. Then you get into a state of trance as you're writing, because you're just like into it. So that's the kind of yoga that I teach. It's more like trance yoga.
That's great. Yeah, very good classes.
So thank you.
So now you're teaching you're opening your own studio.
I opened Yoga Church San Diego.
You can follow her at Yoga Church SD on Instagram. I'm going to put this all up on the podcast notes, but yeah.
And please come to all my classes. Yes. All of them. Not just one. All.
All of them.
The classes so far, because I don't have other teachers working with me just yet, it is $10 suggested donation per class. The idea behind it is I want to bring back the true essence of yoga. So for me, I believe that everyone should be able to afford yoga. And so I made it at this price so it could be more affordable. For those who can't pay the $10, they have to come talk to me, because I need to understand their situation, connect with them, and I'll find them something else to do in return for my class. But everyone should have the opportunity to experience the class. So even if you can't afford it, I will find, maybe you can bake me some cookies. Always happy to eat cookies, or something gluten-free, please. But always happy to find ways to exchange as long as the people get their yoga. And on the teacher side of things, I want to give teachers a space where no one tells them how to teach. They just come in, pay a small fee to rent the space. They get it for an hour and a half, depending on how much they would like to invest. And they teach their class. I clean the space for them. They come in, they teach, and they leave. Right. They just sign up and use the space for, a couple of times a week, or 4 times a month, or whatever it is. But they just book it, and that's it. So the space will be filled with teachers who are ready to ask their students to join them. Yeah, which is very scary. I'm not going to lie to you. The first time I taught a class on my own.
It's independent, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's scary, but it's also, if you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it?
I'll tell you why it's scary. Because I just did it. I was scared that no one would show up to my class. I was scared, which never happened. But the class was full. I had 18 people the first time. And like over 20 people on Saturdays. Okay. No, that was the first Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So, it's always, it is scary. Like some days I only have 2 people and some days I have 6. You're not going where someone's like handing you the same amount of money no matter how much you're teaching. But on the days where more than 2 people show up, I guarantee you'll be making more than double what you are making somewhere else. And then if you have 10 people show up, that's what you'd be making teaching a full day somewhere else. Like I suddenly realized that there's so much abundance. But I was just, too scared to hop like do it on my own and see where it takes me.
That's beautiful, though. I think it's the way we are going to be now transforming the matrix into our own independent, community-based exchange. You know, like
Absolutely.
I'm a teacher. I come to your space. I have my class. Oh, this is better than now. I don't have to teach. 40 classes a week in order to barely pay the rent.
Yes.
I can give this gift freely. It's just
freedom.
This is part of the shift that needs to happen in consciousness. So, congratulations for doing
Thank you. And freedom has always, just in case you didn't notice from the beginning of the story until now, freedom has been the one thing I never wanted anyone to take away from me. Right. And so I find it very freeing to be in this situation. And even teachers who are like, I don't have the money to rent it for the first step. Come, I'll help you. I'll give you the space for free. Yeah. Talk to your people, your students, after they pay you. Give me, like, we can figure out ways to support one another and lift one another. Because if I want to lift me by myself, I can only go this far. Yeah. And if we do it together, we could go so much higher. So for me, community, like coming together like this and joining forces, that is how we are going to be.
In community, what you're doing, it's where it's at. This is way more the reality of life than hoping some savior, governor, government, blah, 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 help you out. Well, that shit isn't going to happen. So we need to get grounded in moving in our own communities, in our own societies, with our families, with our neighbors, with our friends. Because that's where it's going to be.
Also, the whole thing with, I can't wait for things to get back to normal.
Oh, fuck normal.
What was normal? Yeah. Everyone was upset. Yeah. Everyone was complaining before COVID happened. No one was happy. Yeah. There were people going against certain, like there was a big mess everywhere. Yeah. So what are you, like, I'm confused as to what normal. Why would you want to go back to something you were complaining about when you have the opportunity right now, because there's much less going on, to create something completely different, something that benefits you, something that is not
It takes time to unprogram. It takes time to... It's like when you go on those 7-day, 10-day meditations, or even on vacation. The first 2-3 days, you're like, wow, oh my God! And then finally, you're able to land... Day 4, day 5, you're barely into it, it's time to come back, but it's so, I feel like years and years and years of hustling, going, stress, hustling, getting into debt, like this way of living that we've been programmed into. 1 year of COVID is barely, it's like you just arrived at the airport for a 7-day vacation. You're barely getting into like, Amore was talking about this today. Like, so much, she always tells me about domestic violence on the brain for me. Like our own thoughts. People have been, for the first time, having to sit with themselves and look at themselves.
Yeah.
Because there's no parties or this or rushing or events or
there's no noise.
Mm-hmm. So we're barely starting this shift. We have to have courage, patience, structure.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't, this is hard for them to hear. They hear you right now and probably think, what's this crazy woman talking about? But
because they're waiting for the freaking savior. Oh, this election, that election, this one. No.
Yeah, now it's actually the vaccine is the hero of the day that everybody's waiting for. But you can either be the damsel in distress and, save me, or you could get into your warrior too.
Ride the horse.
And, just go forward.
Ride the horse, motherfucker.
So it's always, that moment that you need to make a decision is, am I okay with what is happening around me? Like, you are the victim of everything happening. Or you could be the creator of your life and... lead it in the direction that you want it to go, rather than just sit in the back seat of things and watch, which I was never a fan of.
And it does take some work to get to that ease of saying that. So if you haven't done the work, go to Donna's class.
Yeah.
Go do iboga.
I make people cry a lot.
Shoot as a message.
Well,
fine.
it's like
good,
when you come to Danna's class or you meet Greece, then you meet Greece's friends and Danna's friends and
Community
more
works.
and more people who have found healing and done things to heal themselves. And I mean, recently I've been attracting the most beautiful people, the most gorgeous humans. It's like,
the energy.
since COVID happened, like I met you and got into like closer to Amori and her group, and slowly it's just been like going more and more deep into like meditations and healing, and my life is just going in that direction. And to be honest, one of the things that I do is not always hold the steering wheel and know where I'm directing myself, but actually I pray every morning and I let go and allow the universe to bring me, instead of latching on to what's normal, I let go and I just accept, and trust that better things are coming and evolving and being created. So I don't have to latch on to what I'm used to feel comfortable and safe. I'm always safe. I'm always taken care of. I'm always loved.
And held.
Yes, and it's like when you're riding a roller coaster. If you're gonna latch on, you're gonna get out like with so much pain. But if you're just like,
let it go,
you know, and you just trust that you'll be fine at the end of it, then you won't have any pain, any neck pain, any injuries in your body. So it's kind of like that. So part of it is like getting up to create, and part of it is also to
Trusting
just trust and let go. Yeah,
that's my word for this year since the solstice. Allow all of it. Allow. Pleasure, love, flow, fear, tears, whatever. Instead of constricting it, you know.
Yeah, or needing to control.
Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
us.
guys
for
so
hopping in
much.
here. Yes, we'll definitely
It's nice to
have
meet
another
you.
one. We'll have to do like a whole like psychedelic experience podcast.
That's
coming up next.
That would be
Right? Let's do that. Like,
absolutely, yes.
We'll
I'll
go
wear a
do ceremony
psychedelic
and then come
T-shirt.
back. No, it's very, very healing. But thank you everyone for listening to Tales of Recovery. I will put all Danna's information on here so you can follow her and take her classes, and really thank you
Thank
for
you.
the courage, for all of the courage that you've done, that you've been showing the universe since, you know, with your son and all the women that you helped before you moved to the States, and all the women that you're helping now, including me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Grace.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Oh, Grace, you're late.